Hello everyone, and welcome back to our series on quantum computing. In the previous video, we established the theory behind quantum channels. In this video, we will go through 3 important examples of quantum channels in action. The first channel we will look at is the depolarizing channel. This is defined as a channel that with probability 1 minus p leaves a state unchanged, but with probability p applies a Pauli operator x, y, or z with uniform probability. You can think of this as, let's say, a communication channel, where with probability 1 minus p, any qubit we send through goes unchanged, while with probability p, a Pauli error occurs of some kind. To get an isometric representation of this channel, we can introduce a 4-dimensional auxiliary system E, which you can think of as the environment. This state effectively keeps track of which error occurs, with 0 meaning no error, 1 meaning x, 2 meaning y, and 3 meaning z. To find the operator sum decomposition for this isometry, we simply apply the I-tensor operator we discussed in the previous video when covering how to convert isometries to operator sums. For example, for m0, we get the square root of 1 minus p times I. Repeating this for each basis vector in the environment, we get the following 4m operators, which are simply multiples of Pauli operators. You can easily check for yourself that the normalization condition holds using the fact that the Paulis are unitary. Altogether, we get the following Pauli channel. Here, we can see that the coefficients assigned to each term represent the probability of the operator being applied to ρ, which should make intuitive sense, as this is basically just a mixed state of all the possible outcomes. Suppose we now expand out ρ in terms of Pauli matrices. We will call this vector n the polarization of the density matrix. We can use the fact that each Pauli anticommutes with the other two to show that the non-identity terms all cancel, meaning that we can write this channel as 1 minus 4p over 3 times ρ plus 2p over 3 times I. If we now find the new polarization vector corresponding to this state, we have that the polarization is scaled by a factor of 1 minus 4p over 3, for p less than or equal to 3/4. Consequently, we can see that the quantum channel reduces the polarization of the density matrix, hence the name depolarizing channel. If we now picture the action of this channel on the Bloch sphere, we can see that the output sphere is a scaled down version of the original Bloch sphere. This should be quite interesting for a few different reasons. Firstly, when I introduced the Bloch sphere several lectures ago, I noted that unitary transformations amount to rotations of the Bloch sphere, leaving the actual sphere itself unchanged. However, as we can see here, quantum channels need not preserve the sphere, meaning that they are not physically invertible in general. In fact, the only invertible quantum channels are simply unitary ones, in which case we have just one Kraus operator. It should be noted that while Kraus operators can shrink the Bloch sphere, they cannot expand it. Mathematically speaking, this is due to the fact that quantum channels that expand the Bloch sphere must have negative eigenvalues, which would mean that positivity is violated. Intuitively, however, you can imagine this as meaning that quantum channels can make a state noisier, but they cannot remove noise from a given state. This is simply the quantum version of a classical information theoretic concept known as the data processing inequality. The next channel we will consider is the dephasing channel. Here, the idea is that we have a qubit A and an environment E that scatters off of A. In particular, if A is in state 0, the environment will scatter with probability p and go from state 0 to 1 without changing A. Similarly, if A is in state 1, the environment will scatter with probability p, but instead go from state 0 to 2 without changing A. Altogether, this gives us the following isometry. Computing the Kraus operators, we get the following. As a result, we then get the following operator sum. Acting with the quantum channel on the general form of the density matrix, we can see that this channel performs the following transformation. In particular, the diagonal elements remain unchanged, while the off-diagonal elements are reduced by a factor of 1 minus p. Consequently, this channel gives us a nice formalism for studying decoherence. In particular, if we start with a qubit A and a state of superposition between 0 and 1, the off-diagonal elements will initially be non-zero. However, if we then have this state go through the dephasing channel, we see that the off-diagonal elements will get reduced, transforming this state into a mixed state. If we then proceed to apply this channel many times, we can see that the off-diagonal elements will decay to 0, effectively meaning that our original pure state that was in coherent superposition between 0 and 1 has effectively decayed into a purely classical mixed state of 0 and 1, which makes sense since the environment scattering off the qubit effectively performs a kind of measurement on our state in the 0-1 basis. Something I should note here, however, is that the operator decomposition we derived here is actually not the minimal set. To see this, let's practice using the Choi matrix to find the minimal set of Kraus operators. Constructing the Choi matrix is trivial here using the mapping that we calculated, giving us the following. We can now compute the non-zero eigenvalues and their corresponding eigenvectors. Applying this reshaping operation phi onto the square root of the eigenvalues times the unit eigenvectors, we can recover the following Kraus operators. Consequently, you can see that this channel is actually equivalent to a polychannel, where we perform a z operation with probability p over 2 and do nothing otherwise. If we now expand the density matrix in terms of its polarization vector here, we can see that we get this new vector whose x and y components are reduced. Consequently, in terms of the actual Bloch sphere, we can see that this channel effectively squeezes the Bloch sphere towards the z-axis, where choosing p equals 1 means that our output states will only lie on the z-axis, meaning that they are simply classical mixtures of 0 and 1. The last channel we will look at is the amplitude damping channel. Here, imagine we have an atom in an excited state that has a probability p of decaying into its ground state, releasing a photon in the process. We consider the environment to be the electromagnetic field, which is initially in the vacuum state 0, but transitions to 1 if a photon is released. Representing this as an isometry, we have the following mapping. If we now apply the same technique as with all the other cases, we can compute the Kraus operators as follows. Writing the general form of the density matrix, we can see that this channel performs the following mapping. To get an intuitive picture of what's happening, let's look at the polarization vector. We can observe that this transform matrix can be expanded as follows. The left matrix is simply the outcome of operating on ρ with a dephasing channel with probability square root 1 minus p, while the right matrix is just a multiple of the z matrix. If we now expand out ρ11 in terms of n sub z, we can then combine these two decompositions to obtain the following transform polarization vector. As we can see, the x and y components are scaled by a factor of square root of 1 minus p, while the z component is scaled by 1 minus p and then shifted by p. Graphically, this is shown as follows. Here, we can basically see that the Bloch sphere effectively converges to the 0 state as p tends to 1, since we're effectively guaranteeing that an atom in the excited state will emit a photon and decay to the ground state. Altogether, we explored a multitude of important examples of quantum channels as part of our discussion on the behavior of open quantum systems. As you observed over the past couple lectures, the general theory of quantum channels is mathematically rich and contains far too much to talk about in this series. Consequently, I will end our discussion on quantum channels here. In the next video, we will conclude our discussion on open systems by discussing how to generalize Hamiltonian time evolution to open systems via the Lindbladian. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.